I want to introduce you to someone. She is ancient. She's wise. She's been protecting humans since the dawn of our evolution, long before language, long before civilization, and long before anyone had the words for what she does. And her name is Little Amy, and she lives inside you right now. Hey, I'm Crystal McLain. I'm a somatic practitioner and nervous system educator at the intersection of social justice, science, and creativity. And I'm teaching folks how to craft radical self care spells so they can effectively manage stress, build resilience, and gain some fucking agency in their lives. If you'd like to support this work, you can join us at the Uprising. To learn more, visit crystalmclaincreative.com. All right, so little Amy is just your amygdala, and she is a small almond-shaped structure that's nestled in the oldest part of your brain and one of the most ancient parts of your entire nervous system. And her job is simple and non-negotiable. And that job is to keep you alive. And so she does this by constantly scanning your environment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, forever and always, without rest. And she's looking for anything that might be considered a threat. And the second she detects something that feels dangerous, boom, she acts. And so here's the thing. Little Amy doesn't wait for permission, and she doesn't pause to consider whether the threat is real or imagined or past or present or physical or emotional or anything. She just responds immediately before your thinking brain even knows what's really happening. And that is what's been keeping humans alive for hundreds of thousands of years. But lately, this bitch has been working on overtime. But that doesn't mean that she's malfunctioning or overreacting. She's ancient, and she's running on survival software that hasn't really been updated since the days when our threats were real and immediate and the stakes were literally life or death. And to be clear, those kinds of threats have not disappeared, not even close. For a lot of people right now, the danger is very real. We've got policies that threaten bodily autonomy, systems that were never, ever designed to support certain communities, a planet in crisis, agents disappearing people, basic needs like safety and housing and healthcare and food and basic dignity are genuinely under threat for millions of people. And so little Amy is not confused about that. She's responding to something very real. So this is not about talking yourself out of your fear or pretending that the world is safer than it really is. But despite life being challenging and scary and fucking exhausting, you deserve to feel powerful anyway. And so I want to talk to you about why it really matters that you understand little Amy. So there's basically two types of threat that Amy responds to. The first is immediate and acute. That's going to be something right in front of you, right here, right now, requiring an immediate response. So something like a car that cuts you off, or a threatening confrontation, or a crisis. In those moments, little Amy does exactly what she's supposed to do. She activates fast, flooding your body with stress hormones and gets your body ready to respond. The second is what we might call chronic ambient threat. It's real, it's valid, and it's genuinely dangerous, but it's not something you can fight or flee from in this moment. So that might look like the slow erosion of rights, or systemic harm that's been building for decades, or the existential dread that hums underneath everything right now. It's the threat that exists and is very real, but it's not in the room with you right now, baring its teeth at you. Little Amy can't really tell the difference between the two. She treats the chronic ambient threat pretty much the same way that she treats the immediate one, which means she's going to keep your nervous system in a constant state of activation because the threat never resolves. it never leaves, and it never stops being real. This is what I call the slow burn, and it's where chronic stress and exhaustion and functional freeze and burnout actually live. So it's not necessarily from one big acute moment, though if we don't process that threat properly, that can kind of whittle away at us, right? But little Amy is running on a continuous low grade emergency response to threats that she can't resolve right now. And here's the fucking rub. She's doing all of this on top of the everyday triggers that modern life has to offer. So, email notifications, social media scrolls, and the news cycle, commercials reminding you that you are failing so you'll buy their shit. She can't tell the difference between a predator and a difficult conversation with your boss, or between a genuinely dangerous situation and a text message with an off tone. To her, a threat is a threat, and she acts accordingly, which means by the time you sit down at the end of the day, little Amy has been responding to everything all day long, and you wonder why you're exhausted. My friend, that is not weakness. That is the slow burn doing what the slow burn does. But there's good news. Yay. Once you understand this, you can start working with it, not by ignoring the real threats, but by building the capacity to carry them without being consumed by them, by creating outlets for the stress energy that has nowhere to go, by playing the long game, because life's a long fucking game. And it's actually quite wonderful and beautiful and meaningful if you have the capacity to see that. But anyway, that's what regulation actually is. It's not being calm for calm's sake, but having the ability to keep showing up for yourself and for your people and for the world that you want to build, even when the slow burn is real. So real quick, let's talk about what happens when little Amy gets activated. So the moment she perceives a threat, real or imagined, physical or emotional, she sends a signal that floods your body with those stress hormones. So your heart rate's going to increase, your breathing might shallow, your muscles prepare to fight or flee or freeze. So you might feel tense or tight or raring to go. You might feel like you're going to throw up or shit your pants. But in that moment, your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that's responsible for rational thinking, creative problem solving, planning, focus, and seeing the bigger picture, that gets taken mostly offline. This is the hijack. And it's why being told to just calm down is not only unhelpful, it's neurologically impossible. When little Amy is running the show, the thinking brain is not fully available. So you can't rationally think your way out of an amygdala activation because the part of your brain that's responsible for that has been temporarily sidelined. So asking someone to calm down in that state is like asking them to solve a riddle in a language that they don't speak. It's not about willpower. It's not about intelligence. It's neuroscience. And so every time someone has told you to calm down, to think rationally, to stop overreacting, or to just get over it, they were asking you to use a tool that was not available to you in that moment. That is not a personal failing. That's just biology. Jesus Christ. So what actually works? Well, that depends on which kind of threat you're dealing with. For an acute activation, when little Amy has fully taken the wheel and your heart is racing and your thinking brain's gone offline, you come back to the body immediately, sensorially, because sensory input and movement are going to speak little Amy's language directly. They bypass the thinking brain entirely and communicate straight to the nervous system, signaling safety, presence, and aliveness. So that might look like things like pushing your feet down into the ground, or running cold water over your hands or face, or moving your body, even if it's gently or slowly. You can look around the room slowly and name the things that you see. You can hum. You can sing. You can touch something with texture. Maybe step outside and just feel the air hitting your skin. Now, for the slow burn, the chronic ambient threat that hums underneath everything, the systemic stress that doesn't resolve because it cannot be fought or fled from in a single moment, you play the long game. That means you build a daily practice by creating consistent outlets for the stress energy that has nowhere to go. You make the regulation tools so fucking familiar that your nervous system can find them even when little Amy is running the show. Both of these paths are going to lead you back to the same place, back to yourself, back to capacity, and back to the ability to keep showing up even when the world is hard. And both start with the same thing: practice. So the truth is, you are going to want to practice these tools before you need them. This is basically the fire drill principle. You're not going to practice a fire drill during the fire. You practice it beforehand so that when the fire does happen, your body already knows the way to get out of the burning building. There's no thinking required. When you practice something over and over and over again, your brain utilizes its magical property called neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to learn and create new habits. Everything that you habitually do without thinking about it is because of neuroplasticity. It's because you've done the thing enough times that your body just knows what to do. And the same is true for these nervous system regulation tools. When you practice them regularly, even in tiny increments, even when you're already kind of okay, they become somatically familiar. They become automatic. They become something that your nervous system already knows how to do. And it can be so many things. It could be 5 minutes of mindful movement in the morning, or humming while you're driving to work, or grounding your feet to the floor before you sit down at your desk. Small, consistent, intentional, and practiced when you're calm so they're available when you're not. And this is what our ancestors understood intuitively. The daily rituals, the seasonal ceremonies, the communal singing and dancing and making, these weren't separate from nervous system regulation. They were nervous system regulation, built into the fabric of daily life so that the body stayed resourced. Little Amy stayed relatively settled. And when real threats arrived, there was something to draw from. We're not so different from those ancestors. We have the same ancient nervous system, the same little Amy, the same need for consistent, embodied sensory practice. We've just become distracted and detached, and we've forgotten. But this is how resilience is actually built. Not by being strong, not by pushing through, not by having an easier life or less complicated history or more resources than everyone else, but by practicing the return over and over and over in small moments until your nervous system knows the way home so well it can find it in the dark. Every time you feel little Amy activate and you reach for a tool instead of trying to numb it or detach from it or belittling it or ignoring it, you're building resilience. Every time you practice when you're already okay, you're building resilience. Every time you choose an intentional, mindful, somatic experience, you're building resilience. Most people think resilience is something you either have or you don't. Like it's a personality trait or some gift that some people are born with and others weren't. People think that it's something that got decided at childhood and can't be changed now. That's not true. Anyone who practices the return is building it, which means resilience is available to everyone, even you. All right, my friend, over at the Uprising this week, we are going deeper. We've got more tools, more practice, and a spell kit designed to help you build your daily regulation ritual. Small practices you can weave into your existing life so that when little Amy shows up uninvited, you already know the way home. The goal is not to silence her. She is ancient and wise, and she has kept your lineage alive for hundreds of thousands of years. The goal is to learn her language so that you can give yourself and her what you both need. If you're not a member of the Uprising, I'd like to invite you to join us. Your membership keeps this work alive, but it also supports the Give Back Project, where 10% of all funds go to organizations supporting communities most impacted by the systems that keep us activated in the first place. And because your well-being should not be kept behind a paywall, free memberships are also available. I love you, I appreciate you, and I'm so proud of you for showing up today. I hope to see you soon. Bye.